I'm Caleb Harris, and this is a knockdown workbench that I built for the Sky I Took Adventure event. It breaks down into the top, 2 leg assemblies, and 4 stretchers. It's held together by 16 lag bolts, and I can take this thing apart in about 3 minutes. I've been planing this walnut slab on it for 2 days, and it hasn't racked or wiggled at all despite being held together by lag screws. I have plans in the description. Stick with me and I'll show you how you can make this too.
The first thing I like to do on a build like this is cut all the pieces down to length. That makes ripping a lot more manageable. The stop block on my miter station makes this really easy, so long as I set the stop block in the right place. This board was supposed to get cut in half, but that didn't happen. That caused a little hiccup in the next trip to the store. But then I went right back to cross-cutting everything to length and then ripping to width. This could have been built mostly with 2x4s, but I went with 2x8s because they tend to come from larger trees, and so they have less knots and such. Also, I like to cut off the rounded corners, so starting with wider stock, I only have to make 3 rip cuts to get 2 boards of the right width instead of 4 cuts if I use narrower stock. So I just set the fence to take a narrow cut that just removes the roundover, and then move the fence to the width of the board I want and take 2 more passes. The pieces for the top I took to the jointer to remove the first roundover, so I would also have a good flat edge so it would go together better. Then rip to width on the table saw. How important jointing is depends on how you assemble the top. I'll talk more about that later. With most parts cut, it was time to start assembling the legs. I did a rough layout to get the dimension for the last leg piece that I needed to make, and then jigged together a stop block to cut these because my sliding stop block wouldn't go close enough to the blade. Then it was time to start gluing. I used 2.5-inch 16-gauge finish nails to hold everything together until I could get some clamps on it. But this part could be done many other ways. You could just use glue and clamps, screws with or without glues, pocket holes, whatever you prefer. The bottom piece of my legs have these gaps, and the idea was to notch the stretchers and create a mechanical joint that would not need any fasteners and would provide extra strength. But the wood had other plans and split along the grain, which I should have anticipated. So I punted by cutting the stretchers a little shorter and just turning the legs around. That way I still had this mortise and tenon effect that helped everything line up well. That also meant the stretchers needed fasteners. I drilled a countersink for the lag screw head first with a Forstner bit, and then used the hole made by the center cutter of the Forstner bit to register a pilot bit, all while using my squeed square to keep things tight and square. Then it was time to add the side aprons, which provide a significant amount of racking resistance. I used some screw clamps to help me hold the board in place. Clamps are great substitutes for extra hands, and then lag screwed both aprons to the legs. The base was then complete. Next was getting the top together. To get this build done quickly, I decided to use cleats to hold the top together. First, I clamped the cleats in place and lag screwed them to the base, then drilled pocket holes to screw the top forwards to the cleats. This order made things a bit awkward, but working in a field it seemed like the best way to do it and make sure everything stayed tight and square. Other ways to do the top would have been screwing it down from above, but I didn't want to expose screw heads on top, or gluing the top together into a panel. That would keep the top tight, but you would need to account for wood movement and how you attach it to the base. Those issues could all be avoided by using a plywood top. Doubled up 3/4 plywood wouldn't be nearly as thick as this top. It's really whatever you want. Some other easy modifications you could do to make this bench more versatile would be adding a small end vise to the top, or putting a shelf on the bottom stretchers. A bottom shelf would give you room for storage, or a place to add extra weight if you're doing some really aggressive planing. But for me, this is just an event bench, so I improvised by using clamps to act as planing stops to keep my workpiece steady, or clamp the piece directly to the bench. If there's anything you would have done different with this bench, please let me know in the comments below. While I was in Oklahoma, I got a lot of work done on these walnut slabs that are going to be our new dining table. You should subscribe so you don't miss that video when it comes out. The table is going to have some really interesting design features. In the meantime, you should check out my Instagram. That's where I post most often, and you can see how things are coming along. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.